If you want to pump your body and expand your mind, there's only one place to go. Mind Pump. Mind Pump with your hosts, Sal DiStefano, Adam Schaefer, and Justin Andrews.
In this episode of Mind Pump, for the first 45 minutes,
on the 12 days of Christmas, my mom gave to me.
What are you doing? Oh, yeah, we got the 12 days of Christmas
Dude, you didn't know?
giveaway.
Instagram. Right now.
Go to Mind Pump Media on Instagram. We're giving away some stuff. But if you want to listen to the show, let me tell you what we talk about for the first 45 minutes
All right, go ahead, Sal.
of this episode. No fitness talk, a lot of fun talk. We start out by talking about childhood pranks. Find out what the atomic sit-up is, or
You did some messed up things.
or as Justin called it, the atomic fart. Kind of gives it away.
Kind of gave it away.
We talk about social media overtaking old media as everybody's news source. Might not be able to trust that one. We talk about the difference between iGen and millennials. Adam drops some scientific knowledge.
Some knowledge.
Did I?
Yeah, you did. You compared Taylor to Enzo. Then we talked about Health IQ's lower prices for life insurance for fit and healthy people. If you're a fit person, if you're healthy, which you probably are because you listen to Mind Pump, which also means you're very intelligent and good looking.
Wow.
All
those things.
You can get a discount on life insurance if you go to one of our sponsors, healthiq.com/Mind Pump. Take the health quiz and get a free quote.
Save money.
Then we talk about Organifi's new supplement. It's the nootropic Pure. It's called Pure.
It's pure.
We give our breakdowns. Adam thinks the taste is okay, but it's making him sharper. You might not be able to tell in this episode, but I promise it's working. If you go to Organifi.com/Mind Pump and use the code Mind Pump, you'll get 20% off. Then we get into the fitness questions.
Finally.
The first question is, look, if your mobility allows for it, is it better to develop an ass to grass squat over a conventional squat? Ass to grass.
Yeah.
What happens if you haven't mowed your lawn in a while?
Yeah.
Then you'd have to squat very low.
Yeah, it's
Dad joke.
a good point.
Next question.
Moving on.
Yeah. When transitioning out of a dieting phase, should you decrease your cardio first while keeping your food intake lower? Or should you increase your food intake first and keep your cardio in? If you're confused, don't feel bad. I had to reread that question to Adam 15 times.
There's some sign language involved.
The next question was, for people who work in front of a computer screen all day long, how can you minimize or prevent upper cross syndrome? This is where your shoulders roll forward, your head comes forward, and you look like a big dork. Look like a nerd, actually. How do you fix that with exercise, and what should you do throughout the day to prevent that? Should you wear a backwards bra?
Basically, I'm turning into a shrimp.
That's right. Yeah. And the last question,
kind of posture.
Would we ever make our own school to teach personal training? Is this something that we've ever considered? That is a scary thought. Adam, Justin, and myself as professors. That'd be a good time.
Hey, kids!
Yeah.
Let's learn.
Yeah, but we talk about what we think personal trainers should learn in a school in order to be successful. Also, it's December. You know what that means. Santa Claus is coming.
Yeah.
Last month of the year. We're probably eating a lot of food. Right. Having a lot of fun with your friends and family. You know what else it means, guys?
I'm having a jolly time, Sal.
It also means you get free access to our private forum for a full year.
Oh, my God. That sounds amazing.
So let's say you enroll in a MAPS program today. That means almost all of 2019, you get free access to our private forum.
You get to hang out with us.
We're on there. We're on there every single day. And there's smarter and cooler people than us on the private forum. I'm not joking. Those people exist.
They're real.
And they're in our forum.
Yeah.
The only way to get free access to our forum for a year is if you enroll in a MAPS program. This promotion lasts all December, all month long. It's not going to last.
It's going away
this month. Any MAPS program will get you this incredible promotion. Just go to mapsfitnessproducts.com, check out our programs, enroll in one of them, get yourself shape, and talk to people on our forum. You'll love it. Do you guys remember the atomic
sit-up? Of course,
sit-up?
you pull your pants down, you cover their eyes, and they do a sit-up. Yeah.
Wow. How does everybody know what this is? There was no internet back then.
I know. It just spread.
And it's also...
It's like urban legend.
Why do guys do that? That's like borderline.
It's got to be
That's not even inappropriate. That's like...
No, it's way past.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
We need to explain this.
Isn't it in one of those Isn't it in one of those 80s movies like
Porky's.
Yes, isn't it in one of
Animal
those?
House or
I have
something?
never seen it anywhere. I learned it from a buddy of mine who was a wrestler, and he said they learned it or whatever. So basically what you do is you tell a guy, I bet you can't do an atomic sit-up.
Right.
And the new guy, right? I got to
Right.
tell the audience because they don't know what we're talking about.
Okay.
And-
I'm curious to hear your version.
Okay. Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Perfect.
It might
Let's
be
do
a
the
different
same.
version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, I bet you can't do an atomic sit-up, and then everybody challenges them, and you get them to get all riled up, like, I could do it.
Yeah.
So then like, all right, let's try it. So you're supposed to turn the lights down or off. You have them spin a bunch of times, and they're supposed to.
Oh no, this is
Oh
not.
yeah,
how
I
you
have
do
a
it.
totally different.
I
one.
have
Oh no!
totally
You make them spin a bunch of times, then they lay down, and you put a towel over their head,
Mm-hmm.
and their goal is to do a sit-up while they're pulling up on the towel. But what they don't know is there's another dude with his pants down and his ass facing the dude, and then you let go of the towel,
Right.
and he smacks right into the butt.
Yes.
Oh, see, we did it different. So we would always do like a guy would do a sit up, right? And you have to do it blindfolded. So it's a blindfolded sit up with somebody else trying to resist you.
Yes.
Yeah,
With their
okay.
hands, they're pushing you down.
he's trying to resist
That's
you.
how we do.
Other guy's holding your ankles so you don't go anywhere. So you think he's holding your ankles, you're blindfolded. Other dude's holding you down, and he's letting you try and get up, and you're releasing it. And then right when it gets like 6 inches from there, you let go and
Yeah.
just smack right
and
into
it's like pants and underwear. Down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
Hold
go
on a
like
second.
all the way in.
You got to be honest now. As an adult,
I wasn't the guy that
as
did.
as an adult explaining this.
And it sounds like horrific.
Terrible.
Yeah, horrific.
It's not even. I can't even believe.
Hey,
that
it's
was a
better
thing.
than eating Tide Pods,
Yeah,
You know what? You know
That's
what?
true.
That's true.
right?
I guess we did have
We
our
have to step
stupid
up
shit.
on that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
first guy.
couldn't even make 3
I
minutes.
couldn't make 3 minutes. All right, let's see who
Terrible.
the next guy is.
I knew it was going to be Sal.
Let's see who the next
Didn't you
guy
know?
is.
Oh, I figured it was.
No, but don't you think the version that we did was better because you have you put the towel over their head, so that way they're resisting against the towel. So you don't.
No,
tell them
I
they're
like
blindfolded.
that. I like
Yeah.
that. But we definitely didn't do the spinning around or anything like that. No.
Yeah.
If you really wanted to
I
set
have
up,
seen it like that. I've seen somebody behind them, like holding on to the towel, and they're trying to
Yeah,
come up because that way it makes sense that they don't see as they're also
Yeah.
like pulling.
exactly. So
Yeah.
that you don't tell them I'm a blindfolded.
Right. I have seen it done that way.
Yeah,
So that makes sense.
you've seen it done that way.
I've
How
seen
many
somebody
times
do
have you-
that. I've
How many
seen
times-
it like twice or
You
three
see, too?
Dude, I went to summer camps. Like these summer camps that everybody thinks are like, oh, it was like a Christian camp and everything. And it was like,
You guys were-
there was like
you
the
get-
worst stuff
yeah.
I've ever seen. Yeah, there's some fucked
It's
up
like it's
ideas going on.
it's
there goes number 2.
Oh,
Was that it?
Number
Yeah,
two.
dude.
damn. You
Number
lasted the
two.
longest.
You did.
Guarantee you, if the
That was
audience
really
knew, they
early.
would have bet against me too on that.
for sure.
You know what we'll do before the episode goes live
Forum.
on the forum, and
Yes.
we'll tell the forum somebody lost a bet tonight. Who was
You know
What was the bet?
Yeah.
Let's see if they guess what the bet was.
Well,
of course.
somebody's gonna
no,
make-
no. We'll tell them what the bet was.
Oh.
They'll vote on who lost it. 'Cause
We
they'll
should
be hearing this
also,
afterwards.
yeah, we should also see like ahead of time and like get odds, because I guarantee you'd be like,
Oh yeah.
that's
a high
what he
runner.
was saying.
Yeah. That's what you're saying.
He's cheese high.
I love my
Did
cheese.
you put cheese on your ribs today?
no.
Barbecue doesn't have cheese. Man, that barbecue was
No, it was tri-tip.
that was
dude.
good.
It was
You
good.
should give them a shout out, Justin.
I should. Aptos barbecue.
Yeah, there you go.
They're good.
They're really good, man.
Yeah.
It's the barbecue in San Jose is terrible.
Yeah.
I told you guys it was going to be good. That burger place is really good too that Adam was talking about.
Maybe
before we
we'll
got
go there tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm down for that.
No,
Yeah.
that sounds good.
I'm absolutely down for that. But yeah, was there anything else that we did as kids that were like challenges and stuff? Because I remember the atomic sit-up. And the thing about that's crazy is if you're the kid that got picked to do the atomic sit-up, if you got offended or butthurt, you're done. You're ruined.
Yeah.
You're ruined. You had to laugh it off, and then everybody's like, you're cool.
Right.
Yeah.
If you were like, oh, what the hell? That's
Oh,
it. No friends anymore.
no.
You're
ostracized after that. Yeah.
You're completely
Well, it
ostracized.
only works.
was really
It
sad.
only works if there's one guy who doesn't know at all what's going on, and there's at least 2 other people that know what's going on in it, right? Because you got to set it all up, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? There's another one. So this one's in this one's in construction. So I don't know. Maybe you guys both worked in construction for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So this is when I used to work with my dad, and they did this on one of the new workers there, where you challenge them and see if they can pick up a bag of cement, press it up off their head. And a bag of cement is like 100 pounds, and it's kind of awkward and hard. So people, guys want to show that they're strong or whatever. So somebody stands behind them and says like, I'm going to spot you. But really what they have is a trowel in their hand. So when they push it up like this, you take the trowel and you slice the cement. and it just pours all over you.
Are you
Oh,
serious?
You guys have never seen that one?
I haven't heard.
That is a
seen that
classic.
one.
That's a classic prank.
I have never seen that.
That's a classic.
I gotta
one.
ask my dad
Yeah,
that. That's
that's a
funny.
That's
No,
a
I've
really
done
good
the one where you put the bucket in the door, like right over the door.
Oh,
I
that
mean,
one's
yeah,
classic.
everybody's done that.
That's a classic one.
Yeah.
There's another one
It's
where
like Three Stooges shit.
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Ah,
gotcha.
finally.
Uh,
Timestamp it.
There was another one where you ask somebody, you tell them, "Oh, you're strong. You know, I'm stronger than you, whatever." And they say, "Oh, can you lift me with your arms straight?" So like they'll put their arms straight and put their arms underneath your armpits, and they'll try and lift you. Which it's like doing a front raise with a human. You're not going to be able to do that. And then you say, "No, I can do it." And then you do it for them, but your buddy is behind them, so they don't know this, pushing up on your hands. So they're underneath pushing up. The guy doesn't feel it because your arms are here on their armpits, and then you lift them up. Nobody ever figures it out. Nobody ever. They get lifted and they're like, "What the hell's going on?" Yeah, there's that.
It's
one.
magic.
Yeah. And then one more. There's the one with the spoon. You ever do the spoon on the head one?
No.
Oh,
So
I think I know this.
Oh,
one.
I have
Yeah.
one. You just reminded me of one that we used to do.
So what you do is you're supposed to hold a spoon in your mouth and you hit them as hard as you can on the head.
Yeah.
And you say, "Let's hit each other and see who can hit harder." So he goes first, and you can't hit that hard. So he's like, "Oh," and he can't do it. So then he goes, "You're supposed to put your head down when you're about to get hit." So he
Right.
puts his head down.
You have somebody
You
behind
pretend to hit him.
with
There's a
the-
guy behind him
yeah.
with a spoon that just
Yeah, just whacks him every time.
and every time they look up
Oh,
and they're like, "How are you?"
That's exactly like my other favorite one with the shampoo, where you just keep applying the shampoo over the stall as they're like washing their hair.
Oh, I've seen
and
that
you
on
keep
YouTube.
going and going and going. Have
Have you seen that on YouTube? Oh yeah, people like at the beach showers.
They go
they're washing
crazy.
their
They're
hair.
just like, ah,
Because the suds never go away.
It just never stops. You know, you just keep squeezing, and squeezing, and squeezing.
I'd be so mad.
Right? You have no idea. You're just like, wait a minute.
We used to take a quarter or a silver dollar if you got one laying around, but a quarter.
That's how old you are. A silver dollar.
Yes, still exists?
Those things are worth like $1 million bucks.
God. I used to collect those too, dude.
Silver dollar.
A little
He's like,
50-cent piece.
He's like, you take a pterodactyl bone.
So maybe nobody has a silver dollar. So no one has a silver. So you use a quarter, right? So
that's too much.
you take a quarter and you take a lead pencil.
Oh, I know this one.
And you shade half of the quarter
Yeah.
really good with the lead pencil.
Yeah.
And then you roll it to the side that's not shaded.
Yeah.
And then we would run it down our forehead and then we would pretend like we're trying to whistle and go and someone would be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "It's crazy. If you run this down your head, you can't whistle." Right? You can't whistle. And you do it like 2 more times. Like
I remember this
yeah,
one.
and then you hand it to them just all nonchalant. They don't think, and they draw this big old
big
pencil.
old line right down their face. I remember that one.
That's a good
too.
one, dude.
I
that
remember
too.
that one.
Yeah.
There was one, I can't remember what it was, but it was like something about pinching your chin at the end, and like I forget like how you like set them up to it, but I remember doing this with one of my best friends. She was a girl, and she kept like really trying to like pinch her chin like hard. She stopped. She was bruised for like a week. Right there. on her
Why is
chin.
she doing that?
I don't remember what the setup was for it. I know it's a terrible.
That ruins the whole thing.
Sorry, it does. I know. I'm sorry.
That's like me saying, and then you get,
Yeah.
and then they get a pie in the face. I don't remember how we do it.
And here's the punchline, and that's it. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't get
We'll
it.
put it in the show notes.
I don't get it, man.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
that's all
Sorry.
hilarious stuff. I had, and then people play pranks on each other. I had a buddy who put peroxide in his buddy's shampoo.
What?
Yeah.
Dude, that's messed
So he was blonde. It's like really, he was washing his hair and it, messed up his hair.
Well, I told
That's the next level right there.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
I
'Cause
told
it lasts a while.
the Desitin story on here, didn't I? The one where I got in trouble with my
Yeah.
sister.
With your
I
sister.
told
What'd you do with it
Yeah.
again?
I told that on here. We used to, Matt, you remember when you used to put shaving cream in someone's hand and then you tickle their face?
Oh, and then it makes, and then they hit
yeah.
themselves.
So I used to, I'm the
and
oldest.
that works, huh?
Oh yeah, it works great. It's hilarious. It really does work. I mean, if you have somebody who's a really light sleeper, it doesn't work. But it's a 50-50 shot. You're gonna do it to somebody who it totally works to, and then someone else maybe not. Right?
Did you guys have a trend when in your high school of all of a sudden everybody thought it was hilarious to just do the gnarliest wedgies on each other?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You guys did that too?
There was wedgies. Melvins was the front.
So that was just I guess that was a nationwide phenomenon.
And what was mountain grips, where someone would walk up behind you and they grab underneath your arm.
I hate that. Oh,
but the wedgie was terrible because me and my buddies got so bad at it that I would literally clean and press somebody with their underwear. Like I'd get behind them and I'd grab them and just get underneath it and
launch them.
And I ripped underwears in half. I ripped my buddy's underwears off. So he got me really bad, right? He came up behind me, lifted me off the ground, and I toppled forward. So I was like, "You're gonna get it." And I waited. I think I waited like a month. He totally had no idea. And I got behind him and I ripped him clean off his ass. And there was a little blood on them.
You ripped him so hard.
I think I pulled him up too hard.
Oh,
yeah, that was the last time.
Him.
That was the last time we did
Dude,
that.
pantsing was huge too at the same time. I remember you were telling the story of pantsing your preacher.
Oh yeah.
Was it your
was
I
your
pantsed my dad in front of the preacher.
Okay.
We were out by the pool deck, and I thought he had his shorts tied like he had been doing because it had bled into the home, right? It was popular for us to do in junior high or wherever it was when we were doing this. That I would do it to my dad around the house, and became this funny thing, that whenever we catch each other in the kitchen and he had sweatpants on,
dude, it had to be junior high because I got pantsed in junior high real bad. Like it was like around a group of girls and everything. My friend got me and I just
did the underwears come down too?
Yeah, but thankfully it wasn't cold out or anything. But I was like mortified. You know what I'm saying?
I just
have to put that out there. But I was like, the move is what? Do you pull them up real fast?
No,
or you just kind of
gotta be like no big deal.
Thank you. I pretended that it was no big deal, and I was just like, and I just like put my pants up, and then just kind of walked away and was like, oh my god,
dude, that was exactly what you were doing. At least in my school when we were growing up, like you were always targeting your friends when they're in front of girls.
Yeah,
you were trying to embarrass them.
Oh, it was hilarious.
That's what it was about. Like that's what it really was. Like bullying,
right?
It's like
totally bullying.
You would be called bullying right now. You
go to jail. You would get, but seriously, if you pantsed your buddy in front of a bunch of girls, someone would press charges.
Yeah, but that's what you did.
You ended up on Megan's Law or whatever.
Yeah,
you're targeting your buddies when they were talking to a group of girls at high school or whatever.
We really were terrible back then, weren't we?
Yeah,
but we didn't eat Tide Pods.
Yeah, we didn't.
We didn't eat.
We didn't do. What's the other thing they do today? I guess you don't need to do anything else.
You really don't.
No, who told me who brought up the propane blowing out of your mouth?
I saw that. I guess it's a thing that they're sucking in propane and blowing it out in fire to make a fire breath or whatever.
Yeah,
that could very easily blow your shit up.
I can't see how that would go wrong.
No, yeah. It makes no sense. I used to pull up next to cars, and if there was a girl in the car on my passenger side, so on the other side of my car, and my buddy was in there, I'd pull up next to the car and I'd honk my horn and I'd roll his window down. So I'd be like, "Bam, man," and I'd roll it down. So he's like, look around. The girls would look at it like, "You gonna talk to me?"
Oh yeah, you like what you see?
Anyway, I got a cool article here I wanted to bring up to you guys. So they did this huge study, this huge research study, the Pew Research study, I should say.
Pew.
That found that social media, I believe, for the first time, overtakes newspapers as a news source for all Americans.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
people get their.
I feel like we already knew that. Like Twitter is where everybody goes to get the first hand, whatever article comes out, that's where it comes first.
So right now, TV is still the number one consumption platform. It's at 49% of adults get their news from TV. Second is news websites at 33%. Radio is number 3, and social media is after that. But it's flying up right now. It's a matter of time before all those other mediums are dead. You know what I mean? How crazy is that? Because the thing about social media is, doesn't it have algorithms to kind of show you what you want?
Yeah.
To read or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you guys notice that on your thing?
Oh, totally.
It's getting better and better. That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
That's why it's going to take more and more discipline for us as consumers to not consume so much, because you're always going to be fed the articles you want. You're always going to be advertised to the things that you want. It's going to take a lot of self-discipline for people. It's going to be interesting to see how
you're going to have to actively search out for things that you normally would not, that's opposing your view or whatever.
Yeah, or just practice abstaining from a lot of things, right? Because everything is going to be at your fingertips and for relatively cheap or free.
The thing about the social media phenomena with news, a little bit worrisome is that, and we're talking about this right now, is how, it definitely can shape and mold how you feel about the world. We've known this for a long time. Like, have you guys ever just stopped looking at the news because you're fed up, you're stressed out, and then all of a sudden life seems better?
Yeah.
Because think about it, all the crazy shit you read in the news, how often do you see that in front of you?
Right. Yeah.
It's almost never, right?
I know. That's the thing is we're always looking for that. We're always looking for problems, and the news provides you with a ton of problems, and it's like we can focus on that so easily, and then it becomes like wherever we are, that becomes like all of a sudden now we're there too.
Well, even worse is if you have a particular belief system, and then all the news articles just continue to support that belief system. Is that going to push people to be more extreme in their opinions and views? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if you think immigration is illegal immigration is the absolute worst thing to happen, for example, and you're picking articles like that, and they continue to feed into that, you may think that is. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it may make your views more extreme in that regard. Even if you're pro socialist type government or whatever, you could be reading articles that because they're popping up because those are the ones you click on, and they're gonna radicalize you in essence. We're finding that right now with people in politics. The people who label themselves as Republicans and people who label themselves as Democrats are more extreme than they've ever been. Although there is a larger segment now that's independent, which is good. More people identify that way.
Yeah, it does. I mean, well, again, is that just the media showing us the extremes, in terms of, or like the articles they put out, like everybody's becoming extreme, or is it? That's
a good question or a good point, because it's in their best interest to make you think that the other side is just terrible.
Because usually, I mean, that I try and check myself on that a bit, because when I talk to people in person, I haven't really come across many like really extreme people like that. They stick out, like they're there, of course, but it's just like when I tend to talk to people one-to-one, they're a little bit more rational in their thinking and they consider other people more. I just feel like the media is really
sometimes I wonder
trying to separate us that way.
Sometimes I wonder though if that's because we're in our bubble, because we're in northern central California, which is like we have a blend of all that, so it doesn't seem like there's a dominant. You go to
more of a melting pot here.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a melting pot, so it seems a little more balanced, somewhat. I mean, where we're at, you start getting more north, you get one way. You go more south, you get a little bit more. But I feel like there's a little more radical views in different states that are much more dominant.
California's got. I mean, if you talk about like on the political spectrum, on the liberal side, California's about as liberal as it gets.
Yeah, like
and a lot
San
of people
Francisco, like that way. Yeah, out there.
Yeah,
like,
you're talking about San Jose.
Yeah, San Jose, northern central. Like that's
sure.
It's a little more mixed, right?
It is a little bit, but we're considered about as extreme. I mean, they're passing a law, or not? They're not passing. Excuse me. They're proposing. We'll see if it passes. A new law in California. It's making its rounds where they want to tax your texting.
What?
They want to tax texting. What? Did you not see this?
Yeah, no, I remember you mentioned it, but
what?
I was just trying to
I'd
not
be so
believe
fucked.
It.
Yep. Yeah, you would be.
I gotta go back to talking.
You would be. I'm trying to find the article right now.
Bullshit.
Are they forcing us to talk together?
Maybe Doug can find it, but they're trying to tax texting in order to provide cheaper phones or phone services for people who can't afford it. So they're trying to subsidize your texting, have you pay for people who can't necessarily, I don't know, to help them out, whatever. I think they're just trying to, like usual, just get some more money.
Can't we just have some charity that we contribute to that?
I'd love to read that article. I don't remember you sending that over.
Oh, yeah. No, it's legit. I don't know if you can find it, Doug.
Yeah, I got it on CNN Business.
What does it say?
It says California regulators want to tax text messages to increase funds for programs that bring connectivity to underserved residents.
Yep. There you go. They want to tax your texting.
They just want to find anything.
You know what's funny about that is that good luck trying to tax texting, because I guarantee you the second they do that, there will be an app that'll allow you to, and nobody will text with their phone anymore.
Good point. Yeah.
We'll just start using apps.
Do it all through the internet.
Yeah. The tax-free texting.
Done. That's already gonna happen.
I swear to
The
God,
internet's cool. I got.
they will tax anything.
Well, isn't that what like WhatsApp is? Isn't WhatsApp set up that way? Because you can text and talk to people on the phone.
Exactly. How would they charge you
Well,
for that?
Yeah.
The only problem is then, like, so what was it? That one company in China that I forget what the name of the company was, but they basically had that same kind of a service where it was internet. You could do internet calls. You could do internet. I think it might have been Huawei. Text, but like they were able then to like monitor everybody's stuff because it's like through their private agreement,
Wow.
and so they monitor. So they're getting all this like data information over everybody that way.
Who would have thought texting would have got as big as it did anyway? If you think about it, like if you had brought this up,
No, it sounds like it's backwards.
yeah, because you just want to talk to somebody,
Yeah.
rather than writing or typing. I would have never guessed it. Would you have guessed that?
No.
Before all that?
No, it doesn't seem like it'd be as convenient as it is, but it's so much more convenient.
Yeah. Because
It allows us to multitask, right? And be concise. You don't have to and then there's that awkwardness of like,
that's what it is. I think
They
people
cut out
really
the awkwardness.
I think people really don't want to talk to each other a lot of times, but they want to send something. They want to say something, but they don't want to talk to them.
Well, you see that when you see the extreme of like what Enzo shared with us, what I thought was really fascinating to me, when he talked about if you're at a high school party and there's a girl in your high school that you're interested in and she's at that party and she's across the room, what you will do is you'll pull up your phone and you'll add her, try and friend request her on her Facebook
to see if she's even like we'll give you the time.
Exactly. If she'll even give you the time, she will then accept you as a friend. That now gives you the ability
And then
to
you message her on your
then you
phone?
message her.
You're kidding me.
and
She's
then-
at the party?
Yes.
You're both at the party.
She's across the room. So, and then you'll wait until she responds. Once she responds, then you would go and engage and go say hi.
Wow, they're like writing all
What?
new rules.
Yeah, totally.
I almost
that's crazy.
I almost
Well, there's
feel
somebody
like,
who actually talks about this and says, when you have old guys like us that like act all scared about it, right? They're just learning
What's
a new way of
happening?
communication.
Yeah.
And in their eyes, it's faster and more efficient and less drama, no heartache, no whatever. Like it's like that's how you communicate.
It's way less challenging. You know,
Right.
you don't have to like build
She
up the
doesn't. If she doesn't
courage.
add me, I'm gonna walk
Yeah,
over
I
there and
ain't
get
gonna
shut
waste my
down.
time.
Yeah, why would I walk over there and get shut down if she won't
it's
even
too
add me on
easy.
Facebook?
too easy. Don't
Too
you
easy.
think? Don't you?
Oh, I totally
Yeah,
agree with. I
come
already
on.
know where you're going with this, and I agree
Nobody's
with
gonna have
you.
any
Don't you
character.
think
I still
if you
find
could
it
go-
fascinating as fuck.
It is
Well,
fascinating.
I was going to say, don't you think if you were a kid now,
Yeah,
knowing
there's
what you
another
know, that if you went to a party, that you would be able to just go up to a girl and she'd be like, "Oh my God, he came up and talked to me," and it would be such a big deal. It would be awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like you'd have an advantage if you didn't do that now.
Totally
That's crazy.
like working out. Too.
I don't know. Yes,
these kids.
Yes
like,
and no. I mean, I don't know.
or she'll think you're
I
weird.
still think
I didn't even friend you
I
while
think
you were
no
over
matter what, the process that you would still have to go through is after you talk to her, you would go home after later on that night and you would go to friend her. And if she didn't friend you, then you just wasted that time.
Mm.
Right? Like then you'd be like, fuck, why did I even go over there and talk to her? She wasn't even going to friend me on Facebook. So that's the order now. That's the
Yeah.
order of how they decide they're going to go communicate with somebody who.
They've just like literally distilled it all the way down to that.
Mm, crazy.
It's like this-
Adam, you read
Yes, no.
you read that book iGen, right?
Yeah.
You did read that whole
Yeah.
book.
Great book.
I was reading an article on it, and
That book is really like if you're a numbers person and you like it's a lot of like charts and graphs. I love that stuff, and I wasn't expecting that. I really really liked it because Irresistible was more of a kind of scare you angle.
Like a forewarning.
Yeah, kind of like that, and kind of gave some serious comparisons to it, and we even had some drug comparisons to the addiction of social media and stuff. Where iGen was literally just let's present the studies.
yeah,
like,
it doesn't necessarily mean good or bad.
yeah, exactly. And in fact, they kind of even put a positive spin on some of the things. Well, this generation is, although they are not as social, they're much more higher IQ, far more intelligent, and they go through all the positives and they show you it in graphs, and so I like that. And then I can come up with my own conclusion.
Well, I'm
based
reading
off of
some
it.
statistics right here in this article, and it's saying that between 2012 to 2016, and that's 4 years, the amount of young men who answer affirmatively to the question, "Do you have a psychological disorder like depression, etc.?" It rose 126%
in 4 years.
in just 4 years, and for women went up 150%.
Wow.
Yeah, it increased pretty dramatically. And there's a lot of other things in here that I'm looking at where it's getting a lot worse and they're thinking that it has to do with just how connected people are with the phones and shit.
That book was I actually my buddy who's a principal at a high school gave a talk on social media and all this stuff. And he actually I passed that book on to him, and he said it was incredible. He built his whole presentation around that book.
Nice.
Yeah, just to present it to all the. It was a presentation for all the
students
staff.
Or
no,
what?
for the staff.
Okay.
So the staff was aware. Yeah, so they could understand like this is what's happening.
I
right
think
now.
I'm going to have my son read that book, iGen.
I think it's anybody who has a kid that I think that's your guys' kid's age or younger. I think that's a mandatory book as a parent. I really do. And why I think that, what I like about it is, again, it presents the information. Yeah. You can decide as a parent how stringent you want to be on certain things and how you want to go about it. But it's like the numbers are the numbers. Like it's a fact. This shit is happening.
Do you remember the distinctive characteristics between millennials versus the iGeners?
There's some different things. Like
iGeners they're more interested in like money and like working hard, right? Or
more so than millennials. So
millennials are like, I just want to find my passion.
Yeah, looking for purpose all the time.
Yeah.
I want to. I mean, to me, it's like compare Taylor and Enzo. I mean, they're good examples of their generations. You see the iGen and Enzo with his drive and work ethic, and I mean, the kid is so accomplished for how young he is already. It's so impressive.
Right.
And then you see the motivation that Taylor has with. He desires autonomy and creativity and over even money.
So those are the stereotypes that you read about those two generations.
Yeah, and I would say that they fit that, and they have many characteristics like that.
I've heard that, especially with a lot of the startup, boom. Like millennials were really, a part of all of that, and then I guess the generation, coming up, from that are looking more for stable jobs.
Yeah, no, a lot of that book really helped me too with just managing and leading all them too. Mm-hmm. I mean, it gives me a different perspective of like the way their wheels spin. I think I connect more with Enzo's mentality because it's closer to ours.
It's similar to ours.
Yeah, Taylor is much more different. So I was sharing that with you the other day. It's like I have to think completely different when communicating with them, and it's challenged me as a leader more than anything else. I would say that past.
The difference between our generation is it was acceptable to be really hard on someone or to be really brash.
You know what the irony in that is? Don't you feel like your dad would say that too about his generation
even more so.
compared to you?
Yeah,
right.
It's gotta be.
I should hit you.
Yeah. When I didn't do my work, I got punched in the face.
Yeah.
I guess it kind of did. I know my grandfather used to tell me stories.
And wouldn't you, right? And wouldn't you think that your grandfather would say it even more so?
See, but it's different.
Like, your papa had it so easy.
Well, it's different though because my grandfather was poor and in Sicily, so it's a very different. My grandfather at 13 years old, this is true now. I remember once I was over at my grandparents' house and my grandmother had an old box of photos, and she pulls out this photo, and I was probably 17 years old when I was looking at this, and there was this boy covered in soot, like his face was all dirty, torn clothes, one shoe, like the toes were out, and the other shoe was, kind of a little bit better. And he had this, basket over his shoulder on either side with potatoes. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, who's this? She's like, that's your grandfather. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah. She goes, he was a kid. He'd be 10, 11, 12 years old, and he would sell potatoes. And he would get up onto the top of the train or on the side of the train because he couldn't afford a ticket, and he'd ride it into places, walk in as a 12-year-old boy and try and find work or sell potatoes or whatever. And my grandfather would, he didn't like talking about it too much. But one thing that I noticed about my grandfather that kind of confirmed all this, because later on I asked, how the hell is this possible? My grandfather could eat the hottest food, and I don't mean spicy, like spicy food. I mean hot as in temperature. He could eat the hottest food like ever, and he eats it so fast. It's like we used to joke around and say that he had asbestos in his mouth. Like my grandmother would bring out a bowl of pasta that was steaming. You'd burn your mouth on it. There's no way you could. It's going to burn your mouth. You can't have any. And he'd have a spoon in one hand and a fork in the other hand. You ever seen someone eat pasta with a spoon and a fork?
Oh, yeah, you get it done.
Yeah, and a whole bowl. It would about 4 bites. He'd twirl it 4 times. All gone. Wow. And all of us would be like, how the hell? And, one day when I was right around that, 17 years old, I told him, said, me and my cousin were like, how do you eat food so hot? And he's like, oh, I'm just tough or whatever. And we go back and forth. And finally we pressed him. I'm like, what do you do? And he goes, when I was a kid, when I was 12 or 13, I'd go work for these landowners, and they'd hire all these men, and they'd hire boys, and they'd hire whatever to work for them. And in the middle of the day, they would bring out a massive pot of like boiling hot, like fava beans or other types of beans or pasta. And that's how they'd feed the workers. And he says, if I didn't eat that food when it was hot, I wouldn't eat any food because I was a kid. All the older men would eat it all, and I'd starve. He's like, so I learned how to eat pie. So he would get it out and eat it, and he learned how to eat that way. Until this day, that's how the guy eats his pasta, which is pretty funny. That's pretty crazy.
That's hilarious.
Isn't that crazy?
I think it's always just as hard. It's just different.
Yeah.
Right. So
Different
I think
forms.
like I think when your grandfather says, "Oh,"
You think it's just as hard?
I do. I really do. It's a different kind of just.
I
as
think
hard,
we
though.
perceive it as
Different
hard.
challenge.
I
I
don't
would
think it's
say. I don't
just
know
as
about
hard.
hard.
No. Well, we define hard though, right? And because you could say you could say that the mental
Well, look at this.
the mental discipline that it takes
Thanks, Justin.
to not overconsume because we have so much food. Like there was a time where you would eat as much as you could eat if you could because it was hard to come by.
Yeah, because I ain't going to get this tomorrow.
Right. And so you didn't have to worry about weight. You didn't have to worry about diabetes. You didn't have to worry about these things that plague us now.
Yeah.
And that's now that's a huge thing that
It's a
people.
totally different problem.
Right. It's a total different problem.
We have different problems, but I would definitely not say it's as hard. No way. I would not trade my stresses and my problems for the stresses and problems of my grandfather.
Oh, I agree.
Not
Your
in a
family
feeling-
didn't get eaten.
I agree.
on the Oregon
I like to
Trail.
think I hacked the system, and I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't trade. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that it's there. When you look at all the things that we're dealing with right now, as far as not personally, but as collectively, like as a society, what we deal with, there's other things that,
of course,
generations, hundreds of years ago didn't have to. You know,
of course, there's different problems. I think we're way better off. It's a lot easier. I mean, do you know how laborious it was to be a housewife like 70, 80 years ago? Do you know how laborious that was? How much hard work? And I don't mean like hard, like it's not hard work now. I mean like physical hard work.
right?
To like cook a meal,
But
you had to cook every meal.
Because
all
of
day
that,
long.
because of that, I bet she had great heart health. I bet she was strong. I bet she had good energy levels. I bet her stress was lower. I bet there was a lot of positive carryovers
Bro,
because she had to do that to survive.
40-year-olds looked like they were 60 because they were scrubbing the
Yeah.
clothes on the metal thing, and they were cooking all the food from scratch, and they had to scrub pots and
Just
pans.
growing your
by
own
hand.
food, killing your own food.
I mean, no way, man.
Dude, that
you ever look at
sucks.
pictures of like of old pictures of people from the 1950s, and you look at them, and like, wow, that looks really good, and you find out that it's a 20-year-old. You know, that dude looks like he's 38.
Well, part of that too is
How
us
did
get-
that-
part of that is us getting smarter too, right?
Yeah.
We've evolved. We understand science. We've gotten a lot smarter about what to eat, how to move, how to do
Sure.
things. So there's
Sure,
certain things
sure,
that have
sure.
evolved us.
Yeah, and you know, they're what's interesting though I find is, well, no, life expectancy's gone up generally quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I had relatives like I've told you guys about my great grandfather. Guys, he chain smoked cigarettes since he was 13. Like constantly smoked cigarettes since the age of 13. The guy was 90, I think 91 or 92
Yeah.
when he died. That's crazy.
Didn't affect him.
That's
like
crazy
that.
to me.
Yeah.
You know?
It's interesting how that affects some people and others not so
Yeah.
much. You know.
Yeah. Oh, I have to mention Health IQ. We're supposed to talk about them in today's episode, but I will say, just off that topic, my cousin who is just got married, and I was talking to him about life insurance. He works out. He was already going through another company. Had him go on Health IQ, better price.
Oh no shit.
Because he's fit.
Well, you see, they're bringing back the quiz more aggressively now. I remember when we first did it. I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but when we first did it, and we didn't even mean to do this. We were just having fun with it. When we took them on the very first time when they first sponsored the show, and they had that quiz, and that was like their way of capturing opt-ins.
So it's like your fitness and health knowledge.
Yeah, but they scored it, so we turned it into like a competitive thing amongst the three of us, and then it just
Then our form destroyed.
Oh,
us,
then it went
of course.
crazy, right? And so they actually shut that down for a while on us and said, please don't talk about that and promote
Really?
Yeah.
Because we were sending too many people.
Yeah, just too many leads. And of course, all of them weren't quality leads. And so they were like, we were getting flooded with all these people that were just wanting
wanted to be competitive with us.
They just wanted to outscore us on the thing.
I like the quiz. I think it's brilliant.
No, I
Yeah.
think so too.
Well, what's funny is when you apply, you still fill things out that ask you about your fitness knowledge. It's part of the process,
Right.
Because they want to know. That's the way that they are able to
It's
give you
pretty
lower price.
specific too. I was impressed. It's not just like generic.
That's
like,
what I
how
was
often
impressed-
do you walk, or do you eat good healthy food?
What's healthier, vegetables or chips?
Yeah,
something like
exactly,
that.
exactly, dude, exactly.
They were. I saw them advertising between one of the basketball games on I think TNT.
Oh wow, mainstream TV.
Health IQ. Every time I see that, I like snap a shot of it or whatever like that, and I always send it to Taylor. I always think that's pretty neat, especially when it's a company that we started working with a while ago.
Well, it used to piss me off because I got life insurance before, and I remember my weight was a little high, but it's because I carry muscle. And I remember how irritated I got with that. I'm like, that's so stupid. There should be a big difference between
Oh my god, I know.
because I carry more muscle than if I'm obese or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
It's
those
so
I just can't believe they still run off BMI. Like when you go to the doctor, I'm just like, come on.
It's because they need something.
They need something tangible.
No, not just tangible, but super black and white and easy.
Well, because
Well,
you have to understand, we're still grossly the minority.
Yeah.
I mean, we just pulled that.
Most
stat
people
up
a high BMI means you're fucking.
It does,
right.
yeah. For the majority, it probably means
because there's 80%
unhealthy.
80% of the people aren't lifting weights, so
Yeah.
80%
That's
of
true.
people aren't changing their body composition
true.
like that. So that chart probably is pretty damn accurate
Yeah.
for the average person who doesn't lift weights.
I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive that soon they're going to include a grip test in the health assessment
I would
of
love that.
the elderly.
You think so?
Yeah, and of the elderly, it's going to start there for sure. Now, speaking of grip tests, by the way, when they do grip tests now on kids, like the average 20-year-old male today has a far weaker grip than the average 50-year-old did.
I remember when you
Yeah.
brought that up way back
Yeah.
when we talked about the declining male or
Yep,
whatever like
yep.
that, right?
Oh, did we bring that? And then also like throwing grenades or something like that. Like
They had to like take it out of
They had
the
to take-
basic training or something because they couldn't throw it far
people
enough.
couldn't throw it. Like we've lost that ability. What the hell? What the hell's wrong with us?
Hey, if you can't,
Dude, if you lose a war because you can't throw
You
a
can't throw a
grenade.
fucking grenade like more than 5 yards.
Oh my gosh.
it's got to be longer than that, right?
That's
it was
embarrassing.
short. It wasn't that far.
Yeah.
if I remember right.
People were saying, I don't know how far.
I don't know.
was
It's not
5
5 yards. That's probably
Yeah,
that's-
but
Imagine being part of the group that was there when the guy that was throwing like that couldn't clear the 5 yards.
Hey,
or
you
whatever it
imagine
was.
it.
Oh,
Hey, he
man.
throws
It's
this like right in
sad.
front of them. Fuck.
It's just like their dad never ties. It's like,
You have to take a push.
boom, the push throw.
No.
Come on, guy.
No, but
You
I
know,
think
you're the
they're
drill
gonna.
sergeant. You're like, like, what am I gonna do with this? We're gonna die.
I think they're going to include the grip test in the elderly for sure. Because what they're finding is it's a good general test of overall strength, and it's a good predictor of all-cause mortality and health in the elderly. So I think that pretty soon, when they test, people in advanced age, that'll be part of the testing. They'll do the blood test, whatever, and then it'll be because it's so easy. They'll give them something to squeeze. They squeeze it. Oh,
Do you really think it's that good of an indicator?
it is because yes, it is. Now it's not a good indicator if all you do is train your hands. So like if an old person takes that test, it's like I need to pass the test, then just works on their
Just
hands.
cracking walnuts all day. Just
Yeah, no, but generally speaking, if you have a weak grip, you're probably weak. You probably have mobility and strength issues.
I find it interesting how quick we can fluctuate that. Like there's been times just in the last 2 years where I can feel a significant difference in my ability to hold on to a 500 pounds on a barbell
Really?
versus like 300. Yeah, no, it's
What, just because based on how much you train or whatever?
yeah.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing: your grip's always strong. You know what I'm saying? It just goes from strong to really strong. If you have a weak grip, generally speaking, a weak grip will tell is a pretty good indicator of the fact that you're weak. There's generally low, so they're going to give them a low threshold. It's not like they're like, oh, you got to squeeze 100 pounds. It's probably like, yeah, you're scoring less than 5 pounds of grip strength. We need to work on your overall strength.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of muscle activity.
Yeah, and you're
going
more
on.
likely to fall, lose your balance, break a bone.
What do you think that is? You think that's just a decline of the CNS, just kind of damping down? You think that's what that is?
Well, you
Sort
know,
of pruning everything that hasn't been
you're
operated.
losing your muscle and losing connection to the muscle.
Yeah.
It used to be, 80, 90 years ago where people hurt themselves because they did too much work. Now people hurt themselves because they do too little.
Uh-huh.
It used to be like that. The old adage, like, oh, lay down, you need to relax and rest. You don't tell that to old people anymore. Now you're like, no, get up and move.
Yeah, don't sit.
Yeah, the reason why they did that back then is because I'm 70 years old. I've been breaking rocks since I was 15 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
It's probably going to help me to sit down and relax a little bit, and my back hurts because of it or whatever.
Yeah, they're doing some real shit.
Yeah, now it's not. It's the opposite. So.
Which is probably why our life expectancy is increasing, because we're not hammering our bodies our entire lives.
It's starting to flatten out.
It takes
though.
longer to die. Yeah, just being lazy.
Yeah, I think we're keeping ourselves alive longer, but we're not having like good life throughout that whole time. You know what I mean? I think the last 5 to 10 years is just shit.
I wonder
for a lot of people.
I wonder if we will see in our time mandatory exercise that is based off like your contract if you work for a company. Like I get hired on, and part of that is I have to exercise X amount of days per week, just because the company could be, if we continue going the direction we're going, right, with obesity and heading that way to where it gets so crazy bad that companies are like, we have to do something about this, and you mandate it,
or they pay you more.
Or that
they pay you more
there's
because you cost them less on health insurance.
I mean, I would love to see
That'd be the better way to do it.
It would be the better way.
That would be great. And I think with like health insurance, I would love to see a health insurance company that's just for people who are healthy and fit. You know what I mean? So you don't pay $1 million for health insurance, because how often do I go to the doctor and require, all this stuff? Of course, on the other end of the extreme, if you're an extreme athlete, you're probably going to have expensive health insurance because you're going to break something. That's totally something on the other side. I was going to ask you, Adam, how did you like did you finally try the Pure?
I did. I've actually been.
So what do you think?
I like it.
Right?
Yeah. No, I like it. I'm on. Okay, let's see here. I've had 5 days in a row with it.
Now, what do you notice from it?
I just tried it today.
Or what do you guys notice from it? I want to see how it compares to.
I liked in comparison to any of the other sort of nootropic blends or anything else we've tried. Like, it's very smooth, and I didn't get any. Was it the main one that has GABA in it? That one didn't. Well, not GABA. I forget rhodiola.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. Yeah. Whatever it wasn't in there, and I was really happy about.
That's in the Focus Aid. That's what's in the Focus Aid.
The
right?
Focus Aid. Yes,
oh.
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So this was a very nice, like, clean.
That's why I don't like the Focus Aid either, for that reason too. And what I think why I think I like it, or my looking at it, I think it's because it doesn't have a ton of crazy stuff. Like I don't need much for that, and I just feel clear. I don't feel jittery. I don't feel like I had a bunch of.
Yeah, it's not a stimulant.
No, it doesn't feel like a stimulant. I just feel clear-headed. That's all.
That's what I noticed too.
Yeah.
I noticed it's got a genuine.
But it doesn't taste good. Tastes
you don't
whack.
like the taste? No, I like the taste.
No, I don't like the taste at all.
You really
it's
don't?
not bad.
It's not bad, but it's like it could
I
be.
don't mind it.
For Organifi, considering Organifi always has like all their drinks.
all their drinks.
They're the
are
best
the
green
bomb.
drink in the market, in my opinion.
Period.
Yeah. Period.
Yeah.
I think the orange is the best.
They're gold. They're gold.
Oh, the
So you
gold-
call it
gold-
orange.
the gold
Did I
juice-
say orange?
Yeah, I'm the one
Oh
who
man,
used to-
it's contagious.
Yeah, gold. The gold juice
is incredible.
Yeah. No, and they have the chocolate one now. All their stuff is that. So the Pure least favorite taste.
Well, yeah, if you're going to compare all to those,
Yeah,
But, I mean, it's
guess
not
you're
a
right.
bad
I
flavor.
feel like you have to if you're going to talk about.
But it's a
Organifi,
small
though.
amount
Maybe.
though. That's why, and it's also it's because it has apple cider vinegar. That's what you're tasting.
Oh,
You're tasting the apple cider vinegar.
it's
that's
hard
in
to
it.
make apple cider
The
vinegar
thing that
taste
they
good,
did,
right?
yeah, the thing that they did with Pure that I'm actually quite impressed with is it yes, it has the components that are supposed to be your.
What are we getting from apple cider vinegar? That's more gut.
That's what I'm about to say. So it's got lion's mane and a couple other things that actually improve cognitive function over time. So what you would consider your nootropics. But then it has other things in it that are good for gut health. Now, why would you put that in a nootropic? Because the connection between
The
gut,
serotonin and your
and gut health and brain clarity or mind clarity, it's very strong.
Now, that's interesting.
That's the
That is
first.
interesting they
It's
did
the
that.
very first nootropic type of product that I've seen has something in there that's supposed to also
Smart.
improve your gut health.
Now that's interesting.
Yep,
I
absolutely.
didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's what you're tasting when you say you don't like the taste. It's
Well,
the
I know.
opposite.
I think it was you who told me that it's better for me to be kind of consistent with it, right? It's a compounding effect. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
the lion's mane. So lion's mane has been shown to increase BDNF in the brain-derived neurotropic factor, which is like this. It's basically like miracle grow for the brain. If you have a lot of it in your mind, in your brain, it's supposed to be healthy for the neurons and neuroplasticity. You're supposed to be able to learn better and faster and all that stuff. But anyhow, lion's mane itself, if anybody listening wants to look it up, you can look up lion's mane studies. Just Google that, and you can see that it's got some pretty interesting research behind it. for cognitive function, in particular to help people with declining cognitive function. So there's, I think Japan, if I'm not mistaken, is looking at lion's mane for potential pharmaceuticals for their aging population. I don't know if you guys know this, but Japan has a very, very large aging population. In fact, in something like 10 or 20 years, the average person in Japan is going to be like 50 or something like that. It's insane. And so they're all worried about it. And,
really?
And so they're spending a lot of money on like how to keep people sharp, how to prevent things like Alzheimer's,
right,
like
because
that.
that'll cost them a lot of money quickly.
Yeah, that's
interesting.
Once it declines, yeah.
This Quah is brought to you by Organifi. For those days you fall short on getting your organic veggies or whole food nutrition, Organifi fills the gap with laboratory-tested certified organic superfoods to help give your health and performance the added edge. Try Organifi totally risk-free for 60 days by going to Organifi.com. That's ORGANIFI.com. And use the coupon code MINDPUMP for 20% off at checkout.
Our first question is from Johnny ASDF.
What up, Johnny?
Hey, Johnny!
If mobility allows, would it be better to develop an ass-to-grass squat over a conventional squat?
You know, it's funny that this question keeps getting asked. That's why I picked this one. Here's the thing about resistance training. It's pretty conclusive that a fuller range of motion is going to develop more muscle. If you want faster results, you want to train in the fullest range possible that you have control over. So that's why I want to add that caveat. You have to have control.
Part, yeah.
You have to have control over a range of motion. Otherwise, you shouldn't train in a range of motion. But that being said, let's say you only have enough control and stability to do a squat down to 90 degrees. Will you benefit from training yourself to have control and stability over an additional 10 degrees so you can go a little lower?
Right.
Will that benefit you? Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's a good measure as far as like a 10-degree kind of threshold. I think that if you have that in mind and you're not really trying to overpress your abilities currently, you have to really consider that. But you can literally stretch that capacity just by training for that. And then once you get in that position, training your body to react appropriately and be able to generate force from there, it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should always be trying to get to a point where a conventional squat is an ass to grass squat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that if you can't get ass to grass right now, then you go to as deep as you can until form breaks down, whether that be 90 degrees, 10 degrees beyond parallel, 15 degrees, 20 degrees.
You want to play with the edge, right?
Right. You want to take it to the edge till you break down, right? That's where you want to come back up. But then ultimately you should be continually trying to progress that. I mean, I'm still, I just did an Instagram story, or not story, but a post, and me sitting down. So I've gotten to the point where my hips, I've done so much work on my ankle mobility and my hip mobility, I can sit ass to grass now. But I don't fully own it there because I still want to round forward at the bottom. And I still am not at a point where I have that good of thoracic mobility in that deep of a squat. So I'm working on that right now.
It's interesting that these camps are completely split, right? You have like old school, like where we're just trying to increase load, and that's like our measure that we're always on focusing on the mind is like, how much incrementally can I increase the load? And then, you got the mobility side of it where everybody's just trying to get that depth, that range of motion, that being able to sit like to where my ass is literally touching the ground and I can get out of it, but I can't really do it loaded.
Right.
I just feel like, where's the middle ground with that?
I feel like I live in that.
Yeah,
I
me
really,
too.
You should be able to add load. That's my point. You whatever.
Like even add load, not just be able to do it.
Right. Again, I don't think you don't own it as well if you can't add load to a new range of motion. Just because I can get into a range of motion, and then you put 45 pounds on my back.
They're not teaching that on the mobility campsite. Is my point.
Yeah, you either all the way like the mobility guru, and you neglect heavy loaded squats at all, and you almost.
It's a very big gap between the two.
But I think you can absolutely do both. Yeah. I mean, again, this is where I'm most proud of our Prime and Prime Pro. I mean, I think when you think about something that most people should be, it should be in everybody's toolbox, whether you live in it or it's something that you refer to for things like this, where it's like, hey, yeah, I can't get acid grass, great squat. The tools are in there to correct that in you, to help you fix that, right? So that's where I think you apply that while still going through a MAPS anabolic or MAPS aesthetic and going through a program, but then you are using the tools that you've learned from Prime and Prime Pro to address those things along the journey.
Yeah, here's why both extremes are wrong. Okay, let's look at from an athletic standpoint. Let's just start from there. Let's say being stronger in athletics typically means you're going to be safer when you're not exerting maximal strength, because your maximal strength capacity is much higher. So you're safer with stronger activities because you're so much stronger than you would be if you didn't use a lot of
Your body will allow you to generate more force because you can actually.
But if you don't have good range of motion or good, if you don't have a wide range of motion with that strength, well, the second you move out of that range of motion that you have control over, now you can really hurt yourself. Now on the flip side, you can have great mobility, but if you can't handle load in any of that mobility, then what use are you on the field or in any other sport? So it's functional to have both strength and range of motion. And of course, the ideal is what we're talking about, which is control and strength within a wide range of motion. Now, for muscle building purposes, they're both very important. And, of course, one can be more important in some circumstances. Like you could go too extreme in one direction or the other. For example, load is very important, but if I do a 2-inch squat with more load than, way more load than I can do a full squat with, that's not going to build more muscle. And on the other end of the spectrum, if I go butt to the, ass to the grass squat, but I don't have control over it, so I can't do any weight, well, that's not going to build as muscle as a 90-degree squat with load. So you got to look at both of those. But I will say this, adding 10 degrees to your range of motion is probably going to build more muscle than adding 10 or 15 pounds to the bar up to a certain point. Of course, ranges of motion can get really crazy. So I wouldn't suggest that, like when you're doing a pec fly with dumbbells, that you're trying to get to the point where your hands touch each other behind your back. But you should be able to get a decent stretch and a decent range of motion with the weight, and doing that will give you the best results.
Next question is from Cyrus T. Fu. When transitioning out of a dieting phase, would you decrease cardio first while keeping food intake lower? Or would you increase food intake first and keep more cardio in?
This is a good question. And Adam, I was going to ask you about this because do you understand the question?
Yeah, I get what you read it before Doug put it down, and I wasn't sure what they were asking. I understand what they're asking now. First, I would preface this with saying that I don't think there is necessarily a right or a wrong way with this. I think there's multiple ways that you can go after this. And I think maybe there's a difference between everybody. So I think that there's not like this one way, this is the way to do this. But I like to, when you come out of a cut, you got to think, I've been just restricting from, let's say I started at the beginning of my prep, I was eating as much as 5,000 calories. Now come stage time, I'm all the way down to 2,500 calories plus 20,000 steps a day, which is a ton, right?
Right. So how would you reverse out of that?
Right. So it's a little bit of both, at
the same time.
Yeah, at the same time. So and I really would adjust my calories based off of my movement, or vice versa. I would base my movement based off of my calories. If you're going to increase your calories, which you got to remember, after a show, a lot of people love to feed. So if you're going to probably be increasing those calories like crazy, you most certainly don't want to start backing way off the cardio if you're going to do that.
Now, what do a lot of people do after contests? They'll just, I'm not doing any cardio and I'm going to eat like crazy. They do everything all at once.
Like everything.
Yeah. I mean, I think they all have good intentions not to. And I think a lot of them will continue some cardio afterwards while they're still doing it. But this is, again, too, why I don't like to do very much cardio at all, because I can just drop the little extra high-intensity stuff that I was doing. Mm-hmm. Keep my steps up, which I've already disciplined myself to get up and do my walks and do this and do that. So that's not like I'm pushing a lot. I would just lay off like my HIIT. Because I'm normally doing, when I'm starting to get towards the end of a prep, I'm getting HIIT in almost every day, and I'm getting like an hour walk in the morning or something. And so all of a sudden I'll just get rid of the HIIT and I might even minimize some of the walking, and I'll even increase my calories a little bit. And then
How much do you increase them by?
Well, it depends on my mood, but it could be anywhere as low as only increasing my calories 200 or 300 calories. It could be as high as 5 to 8, and a lot of that.
God, what's funny about that? You're coming from a place of 2,500 calories.
Right.
A lot of people, female competitors in particular, will come out of a contest and they're eating 1,100 calories, and they'll go to eating 2,300 calories, which is like more than double.
Right.
That's not even an exaggeration.
I'll feed hard for 2 days afterwards, and by hard meaning like back to where I'd want to be, like at the 5,000.
Sure.
I'll give back to back 5,000 days. I'm so depleted at that point.
Yeah, but you're taking advantage of the.
And I'll get some of the amazing workouts. In fact, I normally will kind of keep increasing until I feel like I'm not getting any more benefits from it. Like after, because you'll increase the first day. You could almost technically you could eat whatever the fuck you wanted, and you would still have an amazing workout the next day because you were so depleted. Yeah, you're so depleted. But I don't like to do that. I mean, I've done that before in shows, and I feel lethargic after the fact. And where I feel good is I'll have 2 or 3 high days in a row because I've been so depleted. What high meaning back to what I started prep at, like 5,500 calories or so. And then I would start to lower back down something what was closer to where I was uncut. So then I would drop back down to that 2,500 to 2,800 range, and then kind of play with easing them up and tapering off. But for me, I'm only really tapering off steps because I've trained myself to just move more throughout the day with more walks, and then basically that hit cardio, and that's really all that's.
Well, these competitors are going into competitions doing two plus hours of cardio every single day.
Yeah.
Of structured cardio every single day.
Well, that's why I like to teach myself in prep how to manipulate my body fat through restriction of calories or increased volume in training.
Right.
Because if I've mastered that, then again, I use cardio as just an emergency throttle type thing. Like, oh shit, I can't get enough steps in anymore. Like I've 20,000 steps on a day where I just happen to be flying somewhere doing this if I was in the middle of prep. Well, that means my ass was getting on cardio that day because I'm going to hit my step target because that's how I've calculated everything out to figure out how this is going to work. So that's the only real instances where I'm using cardio. It's to get to how I've scaled my steps. I've started my steps at 8,000 at the beginning of the prep, and then it's worked up to 10, then 12, then 14, then 16, then 20, and then I think as high as 24,000 to 26,000 steps. Well, when you're getting 26,000 steps a day, it's hard to not do an hour of cardio.
Sure.
So then I would have to do an hour of cardio. So that's how I scale back. So I scale back by measuring my steps, not by necessarily. So it's hard to say, like, if someone's doing, but somebody else could be doing 2 hours of cardio and still only getting 20,000 steps. And before that, they were only getting 4,000 without those 2 hours. That person, I got to be very careful of taking them from, now cut your hour or 2 hours out and then go to your computer job where you're sitting for all day long. Like, I got to be careful with that client. So then I might do different things with them.
It's crazy. Bodybuilders they didn't do any cardio at all up until I think probably the mid to late 80s. Up until then, it was just training. They would just be lifting weights. Now, if you looked at their routines, I mean, it made plenty of sense. These guys were working out twice a day and doing ridiculous amounts of volume and stuff.
Volume was insane.
Insane, but they didn't do any cardio. Arnold didn't do any cardio. Frank Zane didn't do any cardio. He was shredded in the 70s and 80s.
I think it fucks up a lot of people's ability to really control their body. It's insane when I see these pros that are peers of mine. Like, every time I see them get ready for another show, they have to take their cardio to like the next level. Every time because they've done so much.
And their body just starts to adapt and get really good at it. Yeah.
And so for me, and that's where it's always been for me, it's like I'm not, team anti-cardio that much. It's just if you haven't figured out what you need to do calorie-wise to reduce body fat consistently, if you haven't figured out how to do that just with nutrition and nothing else, and you're always having to use cardio in there, like it's tough to tease that out and find out, well, what happens when I don't want to do cardio every day for an hour? And most people don't want to live that way. They don't want to be committed to an hour on a treadmill or an hour run every single day. Like that's a lot to commit to forever.
It is. Plus, I mean, it's an additional stress on the body. And if you're dieting and you're lifting weights really hard, it's like you're probably better off just cutting your food down. If you really need to make that calorie deficit, you're probably better off reducing your calories than you are doing all this crazy cardio.
I just imagine it would promote more metabolic damage if if you're constantly trying to get through everything through cardio.
Well, dude, the problem is that some of these athletes mess themselves up so bad that they have nowhere else to go. So if you're eating 1,000 calories a day, which sometimes you'll see some of these girls do, how you can't go down to 500. So now you have to do an hour of cardio.
You have to.
That's what's happening.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's many of my peers. I would be, and we'd all see each other. When I was competing at Burnell, there was at least, I don't know, between guys and girls, at least 15, 20 pros at all times in that gym, especially at 6 a.m. in the morning on cardio and 6 or 8 p.m. at night. And I would see them, and we'd be going for, I know they're going to the same show as I am. You know, I'd seen starting prep, and they're already up on the Stairmaster and elliptical, and I'm watching them early. And they might just be cruising then, but they've already started it in there. Once they kick on prep, their cardio is part of prep.
Yeah.
And it's
like, I'm not doing it until
hell
It
no.
seems like such more of a commitment, like time-wise too.
It is. And that's why it sucks the most, is because it's not, because let's be honest, we've talked about this, being an hour of cardio is good for the heart. It's good exercise for being healthy. Excellent, right? To have great stamina and exercise the heart like that. But it's tough to commit to doing an hour of vigorous cardio every single day. Like, there's not a lot of people that really enjoy doing that and can maintain that forever. So I want to learn how to manipulate my body and get it to almost any body fat percentage I want.
Speed up your metabolism.
Yeah, all through manipulating my nutrition and manipulating my programming. So that's exactly, again, how I use cardio. It was like this last 2 weeks coming into a show,
and it probably kept it real effective.
Is it very effective? I mean, I could see a difference every day. Every day I went to the gym, because it was only the second time I've done an hour of cardio like that. The third time I've done an hour. When you've done it like that, and it's the last 2 weeks, every day I'm getting sharper and sharper and sharper.
Yeah.
Is it hard for people to really accept, that mentality without the cardio, because they have to put in more work into it in terms of like getting so. If that's like what Sal's example of like a girl, getting to a certain point when she's cut, like her calories so low.
Yeah.
Like the only way more like her body could change is with cardio.
Right. And a lot of that
versus building their way up first. And that might take time.
She shouldn't be competing.
Exactly.
Right.
Now
like it's not ready for it.
Part of the problem, the thing that used to irritate me that I used to speak out on a lot, is a lot of these coaches that are online coaching need the money. And people are,
they're not going to tell them,
of
you
course
can't.
not. They're reaching out for a prep, and I guarantee they weren't doing what I was doing, because it wasn't my main source of income. It was a side income for me. So I didn't care if I had 40 clients or not. I wasn't chasing a dollar amount. I was helping people that I wanted to, trying to figure out how much I could handle load wise. And so when people would come to me to do coaching training, before I would tell them yes or no, I would want to find out where they're at. You need to track your food for the next 2 weeks. You need to tell me what you're doing stepwise, and then send it to me. And then I know, based off of their size, their body size, is this person in a healthy state for me to even put them into a prep? And a lot of times it was no. A lot of times I had to tell people. I mean, I've shared with you guys, Jessica, who's a good friend of ours, a family friend, and she was hammering me hard forever and wanting me to get her ready for a show. And I kept saying, no. Your metabolism's not ready for it. For as much muscle as she has in her body, and this how strong and her size is, like her metabolism, she should be able to eat 2,800 calories and not gain weight. Like, and she can't hardly eat more than 1,300 to 1,400 calories. Like I would be fucking her up to put her, just like the coach did with her, because they did take someone else.
Yeah,
did
she
take
lost
her.
a shit ton of muscle.
Yeah, and she lost a ton of muscle. She fucked her metabolism up, and here I am back trying to rebuild it still. So that's just it. Is those girls come into those, and some guys, but more often than not, the girls come to a coach. Coach says, "Okay, where are you at?" He might do the same thing too, but he hires her regardless. And the girl goes, "Hey, I'm eating 1,500 calories a day and I look like this." And then he goes, "Okay, I'm going to drop you to 1,300 and we're going to do an hour of cardio."
Yeah.
Right away, he goes to work into cutting. Yeah, it's like, no, that's fucking insane. Like, no, that person is going to be, they're going to be having in 8 weeks. She's going to hate life, fucking crazy.
Next question is from Stellar Hefe. For people who work in front of a computer screen all day, how can you minimize or prevent upper cross syndrome? Any tips or daily habits or exercises that can be done at your desk?
Definitely. So we should explain what upper cross syndrome is first. So upper cross syndrome is that kind of slouch forward position where the shoulders are forward,
Kind of like a hunchback.
hunchback a little bit, the neck
Rounded forward, everything.
Yeah, your head, kind of protrudes forward. It's that computer desk posture. And what happens with the body is whatever position it's in a lot of or the most of, it actually starts to form itself into that position. Muscles that are shortened in particular positions for long periods of time become tight and don't want to lengthen. Muscles that are lengthened in a particular position start to get more slack and relax more, and you lose a little bit of control or connection to them. You actually can lose connection to all these muscles if it's a very disengaged position. And so by sitting at a computer, you have this position that develops because you're sitting that way, and it becomes a part of your posture. Because that's where you are most of the time. So if you want to counter that, you have to counter it with movement. Either being in a different position more often than that, which many times isn't possible. Like if you work 8 to 10 hours a day in front of a computer, you're not going to be able to do 8 to 10 hours of standing in the opposite position. So the way you counter it is with more intense activity in the opposing direction. So resistance training is a great example of this. The classic exercises that help fix that are, any rows done
Seated
properly,
row,
but they have to be done properly, where the shoulders are pulled back and down. You want to do exercises that help pull the head back. Our wall test is fantastic. I think we have a YouTube on that, don't we?
Yeah, we do actually. The wall test is one of my favorite things ever to really highlight. You feel like where all these things are happening. Like you just feel I can't actually touch my head to the wall. There's certain things like limitations because of it gets pretty bad over time. You just don't realize it because you're not, against a rigid surface to kind of give you that feedback. So what the wall test does, it gives you feedback to certain points in your body, like the nodule of your head, your shoulders, your thoracic, your lower lumbar, like being able to then activate your core and not have your ribs flare up, tuck your chin in. There's like a lot of different things that you have to focus on, but it helps to highlight your natural tendency to want to compensate and be able to adjust to get one of those to fit to the wall.
So I do 5x10s of zone 1. And this is what I teach because I
tell
you.
Test.
So I talk about this on the show a lot, that I still help out these clients that I used to have in my boot camps. All of them are 50. I think the youngest is 55. So 55 and above. And all of them have desk type jobs. So I got a hairdresser. I've got all these people that are definitely in these rounded positions. Like none of them can squat really, really comfortably. So I'm dealing with all aches and pains and trying to combat all the things that they're doing. And one of the most common things everybody has is the, forward head and rounded shoulders. So I take them through MAPS Prime Pro. That's exactly what the entire hour is me going through each major joint in them. And then the number one thing that I tell them all as homework that they do is I tell them to do minimum every day. And I would like to see it more, but I prescribe one a day. You have to do this once a day, but I would love to see you do this multiple times. And I do 5 sets of 10 intense holds of zone 1. So you get into the wall test like you guys are talking about, and they tuck their chin, get their wrists, get their elbows, and then they press their low back flat.
Isometrically squeeze.
Yeah, and they drive as hard as they can and keep connection in all those points for 10 hard seconds, release, and do it again 4 times. And
that takes a grand total of less than 5 minutes.
Less than 5 minutes.
I mean, I think ideally speaking, if you don't want to go to the gym, you don't want to just doing mini trigger sessions throughout the day at work is really, really good. I mean, it could be a wall test movement. You could have some resistance bands.
Yeah, bring some bands
that you do some. And just what I would do and what I've recommended in the past to clients is every single hour, or at the least every other hour, take about 3 to 5 minutes, do a few sets of these basic exercises and stretches, then sit back down at your desk. Yeah. The irony of it is, the comments that I would get after my clients started doing this, in the beginning especially, were
watch your increased productivity.
That's it.
Yeah.
And people would be like, they would trip out, be like, oh, I love doing them, and I'd say, oh, because it's fixing your posture.
And a lot of times, little aches, pains are like immediately gone.
Yep.
Vanished.
Yep. But
It's
the
not- it's
the
not only
reason why
that,
they did it was productivity.
Yes,
Yeah.
you get. It's amazing when we sit still on a computer and you're only having to move your fingers for God knows how long you've been sitting there for, and you get up and you do some movement. Period. Especially if you're doing movement to correct what you're combating, what you were just doing, the position you were in.
Yeah.
That feels good, like you're saying, Justin. But then to Sal's point, I mean, you get the blood and oxygen flowing, and you'll see increased energy. You move your heart rate up a tiny bit. You're not exercising, but you're moving it. You're pumping more
It's
blood,
like a natural stimulant.
more oxygen. You get this little stimulant. You get back, and you feel more productive. So and that's why I like to start my clients with that and say that's your prescription. Is you have to do that for me one time during your workday. Most of them actually like the way it makes them feel and I tell them, I encourage them to do as much as possible. Like, this is your moves. Here's your prescription. Do at least that. I want you to do it though as many times as you can. And then leave it at that. It's like once they do that, they normally can feel right away like, oh wow, that made me feel. I feel better after I do that.
It was one of the key ways that I would be able to communicate my value as a personal trainer to a potential new client. So if you're a trainer listening right now, it's one of the easiest things you could do that shows a client immediately that you provide value, and it increases your odds of them hiring you. And it was as simple as me. I would have them sit in front of a cable row. I'd ask them the row. I'd demonstrate it, but I wouldn't give them lots of detail. I'd show them how to do it. I'd say, "Can you do this for me?" And then they'd do a few reps, and I'd say, "Okay, now I'm going to put you in the proper position." Then I would stand behind them, and I'd pull their shoulders back and down. I'd have them connect and squeeze. I'd have them do about 5 to 10 repetitions, nice and controlled and slow, while assisting them with my hands. Then they'd put the bar back. I'd have them stand up, and inevitably they'd stand up and be like, "Whoa,
Wow.
I feel
Sweet
amazing.
release.
I feel so good. My neck feels loose." And right away, I was like, "You're going to hire me."
Yeah.
You see the value right away. It was such an easy test.
Next question is from Ms. Stacy. Would you guys ever make your own school to teach personal training?
I really think that I believe we're building that right now.
We're kind of virtually.
Yeah, I think we're laying the blueprints of that. I feel like each of us think there's so much more to, as crazy as this may seem. I just was hanging out with my childhood friends, and they're like, "Man, dude, you guys have 900 and something episodes." He's like, "Do you ever feel like you're gonna run out of information or run out of stuff to talk about?"
Man.
And I'm like, I don't think we ever
Not
really,
yet.
I don't think we've ever really worried about that. I think there's always something to discuss because there's so many individual variances when it comes to training the human body and helping people. And then you add in nutrition and psychology, like it's just, there's so many different places that we can go. And I don't know why I was telling you that I talked to my friends. What was the question again, Doug?
It was about the personal training school.
Oh, the personal training school. And so what I think is happening right now is I think that we're answering all these questions. We're cataloging everything. We're making demonstration videos, writing blogs. We're writing free guides. We're creating all this crazy free content. Well, the next level to this business is to be able to aggregate all of that free content and then learn how to segment our audience and provide them exactly what they need through AI. And so I think once we have all that in place,
we'll just be able to teach trainers.
Exactly. The next evolution to that would be teaching trainers how to utilize the tools that we've built for them.
Yeah.
And I think that's for sure the future of what we're going to do. It's just who knows when it's going to be.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to personal training, I think knowledge and knowing how to do the right things for your clients, I think it's important. I think that's very important. But I don't think trainers need the amount of knowledge that they think they need to be effective and good at their jobs. I think a lot of trainers think that they need to be PhDs. Like, I need to get 15 different certifications. I need to take all these classes. I need to know everything so I can help my clients. The reality is that you're going to be able to apply 5% of your knowledge on the average person. Because the average person is a beginner. They're deconditioned. Really, what you should learn as a trainer, what I would put a lot of emphasis on if I had a school for personal training, would be how to get compliance from your client. That is a big deal. Like, it took me a long time to learn that, when I first would start training clients, I'd give them all the answers right out the gates. Like, here's your nutrition, here's your workout, this is what we're going to do. It took me a long time to realize that was a terrible approach because it didn't work. People wouldn't stick to it. I learned much later on that what's more effective is if I figure out the one thing that this person can realistically do for themselves, which is different from person to person, and then communicate it in a way to where they buy in, where they actually implement it. Now we've made real change, and it's a slow process. So trainers, I think the information and knowledge that they learn, I think is important. How they communicate it and how they can implement it, I think is even more important. I think that's what makes the most successful trainers, and knowing how to talk to people, knowing how to communicate. And personal training certifications don't spend any time on that, do they?
No.
Do they spend any time on that?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, I've never seen one where they actually teach you like communication skills or sales skills, if you'll call them, whatever, effective communication skills.
That was a massive, that thing that they neglected to cover, especially the business end of everything. And I think that's why you saw people like Bedros really thrive in a market of independent trainers, especially because there was no resources. You really had to like look on the internet, and all you could really find was people like Bedros, or you'd find other Tony Robbins types that were sort of just trying to get you some kind of life coaching to then apply to whatever business direction you were going. But I think that is a massive missing piece. Because I mean, what we want is for trainers to be successful individually, so that way they can keep doing what they love, and then they can keep impacting people. But when you're struggling financially, you can't, be as effective as you could otherwise.
Right. And let me ask you guys a question. What made you as successful as you were as a trainer? Was it that your knowledge, your vast knowledge?
No.
Right. No. I mean, what were the keys?
Most of the acquired knowledge that I have is from saying I don't know, and then saying, but I will find out for you, and then going home and getting on a computer, or even earlier days, opening up a book and starting to read through and trying to find that answer of that problem. And so I had this attitude of I was good at communicating the little bit of knowledge that I did have.
And getting buy-in.
Right. I had a little bit, what I knew is I had a little bit more knowledge than most of the people coming to ask for help. That's all I needed. And because then I could share with them that little bit more knowledge. And then when the time came where they asked me a question that I didn't know the answer, I was comfortable with saying, I don't know. And a lot of people have a hard time with that, and they freak out and they think, oh, I'm supposed to know because I'm a trainer. But it's like, you know what? I'm not sure. But I tell you what, I'll make sure I find out, and then I'll tell you.
Yep.
And then that would force me to read in the direction that I needed to learn, because that's what my clients were asking. And then you've done that. Once you've done that for a long enough
and if they see you actually do that,
right,
and you go acquire knowledge that you didn't have before, you take classes, you bring another professional in as a consultant, that's value. Like they feel like you really went over and above to then service them. And I think that's a huge part of it too. It's like you really have to show them how much you care about their cause.
Well, and that's there's that psychological piece. Like I remember a long time ago, it was a while ago, I worked with this trainer who was extremely successful. Now, why was she successful? Well, or how did I define that? Well, first off, she had a very high per session rate that she charged. Her books were always full, and she had the same clients forever. Like these people just stayed with her. Now, if you see a trainer with a full schedule who has a high session rate and the clients just stay with them, that's a successful trainer. They're not lucky. I used to think that, like, oh, they're lucky they got the right client who's got money or whatever. No. They're successful. They're doing a very good job. And I would listen to how she would talk to people about nutrition. And this is what used to blow me away. The way I used to talk to clients about nutrition I'd be like, okay, let's look at your diet. Okay, cut this out, start eating this. Here's your calories. Let me write some meal plans for you if you want. Just eat this, you'll lose weight, whatever. The way she would do it is she would say things like, okay, Susan, I want you to eat 1 serving of vegetables every day. And they'd be like, okay, I think I could do that. And then she'd track them for a while. And then she'd say, okay, so here's what I want you to do now. I want you to have at least an additional glass of water. And it would be just these small things. But the reason why she was so damn effective is she was an expert at learning what would challenge that person, but what they could also do realistically and what they could stick to. Mm-hmm. And that was the key right there. And once I learned that, it blew my fucking mind.
Is everything.
Yeah, exactly. Once I learned that,
doesn't matter how smart you are and the information you're providing, how great you are at program design, or what a smart nutritionist you are. If you can't get your client to do the work, you're worthless.
Well, and part of that comes from understanding. So you're effectively communicating the whole process to them to where they oh wow, that, like light bulbs go off because of the way that if you finally presented it to them. And that takes a lot of experience to be able to get to a level that you can communicate what they need to hear at the right moment.
Right. And now think about, here's a good example. Let's say a potential client, so this is not even a client, a potential client walks up to a trainer and says, hey, I want to hire a personal trainer. I'm getting married in 3 months. I want to lose 35 pounds. What do you want to do? Now, a new trainer or a trainer who lacks experience or a trainer who's not going to be successful is to be like, done, let's do it. 35 pounds in 3 months. You got to train with me 4 days a week. Here's what the program's going to look like. Boom. Somebody with experience who really understands success in personal training would say something like, okay, look, I know that's your goal, but it's probably not the best way to do it. I like to get people to get to their goals in the right way. Here's what will happen if we try and do it that way. Educates the client and convinces them to understand, like, okay, I need to change my approach for this long-term success. And that's how you become successful as a trainer. And I think if I had a school for personal training, yes, you would learn great information. Yes, all that stuff, but that's a given. That's stupid. All certifications try and provide you the best knowledge. Right. And do all of them give you great knowledge? Not necessarily, but the goal is to give you great knowledge. I don't know any of them that focus on that other side of it, on how to train people, how to coach people, how to get them to buy in,
communicate better, how to sell better.
Well, this is why I think what we're doing, you're going to indirectly do exactly what you want, because if a trainer were to search, for example, like we've got Dr. Ruscio scheduled to come in, and we're specifically going to talk about thyroid conditions. And so it'll be either a collection of all of us on a podcast talking about it, or it will be Sal interviewing him in front of the Mind Pump studio and talking to him all with that. Now, the beauty is you're going to not only ask the right questions from Ruscio that you should know or people should know, but you're also going to put your experience and your knowledge into the things that you're going to foresee, like, oh, well, we got to watch out for this. So,
sure.
So because now trainers will have that ability to watch that and listen to that, you're going to teach that.
Oh yeah.
Through all this.
Oh,
stuff.
I wish I had a resource like ours.
I know that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what so that's what I see. I foresee this being.
I think we're already providing quite a bit. I mean, I just did a post for personal trainers on my Instagram, and I mean, such a big percentage of our audience is trainers learning how to be, I mean,
I'm excited about that. I'm stoked that many trainers are listening and, really appreciate the knowledge, because it was a long journey to get to where we are. I mean, from what we've experienced individually.
Well, let's be honest, from just a real standpoint. Okay. I don't care what metrics you measure this by. What is the most successful segment of the fitness industry as measured by long-term good success by clients? Personal training. Yeah. Personal training outperforms. Personal trainers are the lifeblood of the fitness industry, hands down. And I don't mean that from a marketing standpoint, all that shit. I mean from a true standpoint, from these are the people that are actually
they're physically
effective.
Interacting.
Yes, and they're very, very effective at what they do, or more effective than group training, gyms, than magazines, than articles, than whatever. It's the personal trainers. Mm-hmm. So that's what gets me excited, is that we have an audience of people that are listening that are making those changes. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty cool. I was on vacation, recently or whatever. And one of my cousin's friends comes up to me and she's like, oh my God, I just listened to your podcast for the first time. I'm like, oh, how'd you find it? And she's like, my personal trainer told me to listen to this podcast. Oh, nice. And she's like, as I started listening to it, I realized it was you, and I didn't even know this, and whatever.
And she already followed you.
Yeah. She knew who I was through my cousin, but she'd never listened to my podcast. So she got referred by her trainer. Hey, you got to listen to this fitness podcast or whatever, and it's her personal trainer. And she pulls it up, and she's like, "Oh shit, I know the guy that hosts that."
That's
like,
great.
how freaking rad is that?
That's pretty funny.
Anyway, well, speaking of personal trainers, we have a new guide available at mindpumpfree.com that is all about how to become a successful personal trainer. So if you're a new trainer or a relatively new trainer, it talks about like certifications, prospecting. It talks about how to sell personal training, how to present personal training, how to price your training. It's a totally free guide. Again, it's at mindpumpfree.com. Go check it out.
Thank you for listening to Mind Pump. If your goal is to build and shape your body, dramatically improve your health and energy, and maximize your overall performance, check out our discounted RGB Super Bundle at mindpumpmedia.com. The RGB Super Bundle includes MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic. 9 months of phased expert exercise programming designed by Sal, Adam, and Justin to systematically transform the way your body looks, feels, and performs. With detailed workout blueprints and over 200 videos, the RGB Super Bundle is like having Sal, Adam, and Justin as your own personal trainers, but at a fraction of the price. The RGB Super Bundle has a full 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can get it now plus other valuable free resources at mindpumpmedia.com. If you enjoy this show, please share the love by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and by introducing Mind Pump to your friends and family. We thank you for your support, and until next time, this is Mind Pump.